This video is going to review MRP problem, okay, a material requirement planning type of problem. So question 4, I believe, and question 5 are both related to the MRP problem, but question 4 is relatively easy because remember there are net requirement planning and there are gross requirement planning. Gross requirement planning are much easier. I believe chapter 4 is basically what the what's related to the gross requirement planning. I'm gonna skip this, okay? I'm gonna mainly focus on question number 5, which is the net requirement planning problem. So I know that your MyLab is presenting this in a stepwise fashion, that you complete one component at a time, and unless you made it correctly in that specific move, it won't allow you to proceed to the next move. But we are going to just do it like as a normal person will do, in a way a normal person would do. So remember, I posted MRP planning sheet, which has a gross requirement planning sheet, net requirement planning sheet. I'm going to be using this gross requirement planning sheet. I'm sorry, net requirement planning sheet. So the first step is, of course, you have to, based on the description, you have to come up with the bill of material structure. Okay, you have to sketch this out so that you know the interrelationships between each components. So for example, this basically tells you with a 1 unit of S, you need 2 units of T. With a 1 unit of T, you need 2 units of V. Therefore, with a 1 unit of S, you'll need 4 units of V, and so forth. So this relationship needs to be made clear before you engage any type of net requirement planning. So in addition to that, we also need to have a clear idea about what the lead time is going to be. Okay, so basically, if you pull out the chapter 14 Excel file, this is what it looked like. I mean, you can just make it. You can just make your own spreadsheet from there, but I want to just use mine. So we have S here, we have T here, we have U here, right? And then we have V and W and X. We also have a Y and Z. This is a lot. This has a lot of components. Okay, and what about our on-hand inventory at this point? So we only have demand at this point, right? Demand for S in the week 7 is going to be 110, right? And it's giving us lead time information, right? Requires 2 units of T, and so forth. So okay, so to make, it takes 2 weeks to make S. So for lead time, it's 2 weeks. 1 week to make a T, and 2 weeks to make a U. 2 weeks make a V. 3 weeks to make a W. Okay, 1 week X, 2 week Y, 1 week to make a Z. Okay, so with that, suppose that there, in addition to 110 units of S, there are also a demand for 20 units of U, which is okay. So in addition to this, we need 20 units of U for some maintenance purposes, okay, needed in week 6. So week 6 U needs to deliver 20 here. Well, I'm pretty sure you may have to bring some change in this quantity later. Just gonna put this here for now. New order has received. 80 unit of S due in week 8. So in addition to 110, you need additional 80 unit of S by the end of week 8. Okay, so that's basically what we need at this point. Does it mention any existing inventory? Does it mention any existing inventory? So I don't really see any information here related to any on-hand inventory. Okay, so just gonna do it like this, and if your version has information about on-hand inventory, you would need to put them here. Okay, and also I don't see anywhere there's a lot size requirement, so we are assuming that all the ordering quantity is going to be lot for lot. Okay, lot for lot. Order as many as you want. Order exact amount of quantity you need for each order. Okay, so just gonna use those information. So yeah, let's move on. Again, we're assuming 0 on-hand inventory, and you need to make sure whether it is the case with your version of the problem. Okay, so I'm just gonna use all 0 on-hand inventory for all of them. Okay, so yeah, let's start from here. We need 110 here, right? Since I think your version says on hand at the beginning. Okay, so on hand at the beginning of the period. So I'm just gonna also change this. My original planning sheet says inventory at the end of each period. So that's why you see their projected available balance at the end, but I'm changing it to on hand at the beginning so that it's consistent with what you see from the MyLab. Also, MyLab version doesn't have a scheduled receipt. Okay, so I'm just going to ignore that without deleting it. Okay, so on hand at the beginning, of course, in week 7 is 0. Okay, because your lead time is 2, you need 110. Okay, and you need 110, you need to receive 110. To receive 110 at week 7, you need to release it 2 weeks prior. All right, and again 80, you have 0 left over. 80, you need 80, release it week 6. Okay, and then this part needs a little thinking, right? You are actually coupling S with a T. With a 1 unit of S, you need 2 unit of T. So for here, your gross requirement is going to be 220, 160. Okay, and again, because you have 0 at the beginning, you repeat the same pattern. Oh, this is boring. Okay, this is boring because nothing we need to process. So you need to receive 220 here, you need to receive 160 here, and then lead time is 1, so you're just offsetting it by 1. You're beginning the production or beginning the purchase 1 week prior, so that after 1 week it's gonna be delivered this week, so that you're receiving it, so that you can fulfill that toward your net requirement. Okay, and yes, and let's continue with a U, right? U. So you're not coupling U with these two quantities because U are actually tied to those two quantities, right? So you need, it's again 1/2 relationship. So it's going to be 220 here. It's going to be 160, but you need 20 in addition to the 160. Okay, so this is what it is. And oh, since this is so boring, let's assume that this had some kind of on-hand inventory. Okay, let's say you had 100 on-hand inventory before we started. Okay, that I'm just making adjustment as we go. So at the beginning, period number 1 is 100. Okay, you carry that 100 all the way until week 4, and you start to thinking about whether this is going to be changing in week 5. Okay, again, beginning, you still have 100 unit. So your net requirement is the difference between the demand and availability. So it's going to be 120. All right, so you need to receive 120 here. What's the lead time? 2. So you need to release 120 2 weeks prior, so that week 5 has no you don't have to nervous in week 5 because you don't have enough inventory. For week 6, again 180, you have 0 being carried over from week 5, right? So you need 180 here. You need to receive 180 here. Then needs to be released 2 weeks prior. Okay, and then let's move on to part V. Okay, you need to make sure you're clear with which component you're coupling V with. So V can be coupled with, should be coupled with a T. Okay, 220 here. So with 1 unit T, you need 2 units of V. So we're looking at 2 times this quantity and a quantity next to 220, which is here. Okay, so yes. You need 440 in week 4 so that they can start make something, right? And they can deliver 220 unit of T in week 5. So follow the same logic with no on-hand inventory in each period. Okay, so you need 440, and 440 needs to be received. You're releasing it 2 weeks before. Again, 0, 320, 320, 320. All right. Yeah, I'm not sure whether I should keep going. I hope you're getting there, assuming that you didn't know anything about MRP before you get started. Okay, so with W, it's 1 unit of T needs 1 unit of W. All right, so W, when do you need T? T is here. You're coupling with those 2 quantities. Okay, so it's basically 1 by 1, 1 to 1. 1 to 1, and you did not have any on-hand inventory from the beginning. So you need 220 here, and you need to receive 220 here. Lead time 3 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay, so I assume 160 will be needed here. 160, 160. Okay, and then X. 1T, 2X. So X needs to be coupled with T. Where the heck is T? Okay, here. Okay, it's gonna be here. All right. And we're beginning with a 0. Okay. And their requirement is 440, 320. Lead time is 1. Okay, so okay. All right, and let me add some interesting twist here because this is just so boring. Okay, so I know the original problem did not expect you to use different order quantity, but here I'm just gonna using a lot sizing technique where you need to place an order that needs to be a factor of 53. Okay, for Y, whenever you order it, you need to order in a factor of 53. Okay, for Z, order in a factor of 67. So I'm not taking a very friendly number here, just so that not giving you too much convenience, because this is a learning process anyway. Okay, so we're into looking for U here, 120 here. Okay, let me just highlight it so that it's easier to see. So we're coupling Y with a U. Y, week 3, right? So with each unit of U, 1 unit of Y. So we need 120 here. We need 180 here. That's our total requirement or gross requirement. Okay, and we don't have anything to begin with. And we shouldn't put that there. And net requirement is 120 here. Okay, so here things start to look a little different. Okay, because you can only order in a factor of 53. So you need to look at what is the integer that is next to, what is the smallest integer next to 120. So you know that it's going to be 53 times 3, which is 159. Okay, this is a factor of 53. So you must order in a factor of 3 for the component Y, because there's an order quantity requirement. Okay, that is a twist I'm adding here. So lead time is 2 weeks, so you need to release 129, which is factor 3 times 59. Okay, so, and then how does it change? It changes the available inventory at the next period. So the beginning of week 4 is whatever that's left over from week 3. What's left over? You needed 120, but you ordered 159 because you had to. So the difference between these two is going to be on-hand inventory at the beginning of week 4. So with this, net requirement also changes. Okay, and with this, you need 141. Okay, I assume that, not assuming, you can see that you also need to order 3 times of 53. That also need to be released week after the first week. Okay, so after that, not quite finished yet. Oops, I'm sorry. It's not finished yet. So remember, you see there's some difference here, right? So you need to make sure that you indicate the 18 left over from week 4 be carried over from week after week 4. So because there's no demand, no requirement beyond 4, so basically you will keep carrying component Y all the way to the last period. Oops, it has to be 18. Okay, it has to be 18. Oops, yeah, okay, let me just finish it like this. Lastly, component Z. So, okay, let me add one last twist, okay? All right. Since we're doing something very different than what's assigned originally, let's say we're receiving, we have some scheduled receipt in week 2, which is 100, meaning that we ordered maybe a while ago. Okay, that's scheduled to receive, that's scheduled to arrive in week 2. You didn't plan that, but it was already planned by the time you start to looking for this planning process. Okay, so with that, let's see. So 1 unit of U needs 3 unit of Z. So again, where is U? U is here, right? U is here. So week 3, week 4. Week 3 and week 4, we need U. So it's going to be 1 to 3 relationship. So you need 360. Okay, after this, you can just forget about U. Forget about U. We can start working on this. So you are receiving 100 here, and you are not using any in that week. So like this, okay? Because at the beginning you had none, but you received 100 after that period began. So you didn't use any, so next period you'll be starting with a 100. So with a net requirement, it's going to be the difference between what's available and how many needs to be delivered, right? 260. And again, we have a lot sizing requirement, which is 67. So what is the next smallest integer next 260, which is a factor of 67? Let me try with a 4. It looks good. So the lead time is 1, right? So you're releasing 268. You start to make Z 1 week before than when it is needed. So difference is 8, right? So it's going to be the difference between amount of order received and amount you actually needed. And here, so you're at the beginning you had 8, and your net requirement is a difference between 2. So you need 532. So what is the smallest integer next to 532? Let me try 5. No, not enough. Let me try 7. Still not enough. Maybe 9. It looks too big. Okay, it looks good. So yeah, you will release 536, I'm sorry. At week 3, so that you have 536 available at the beginning of week 4, so that you can eventually deliver 540. Don't forget, you need to consider the rest of the period because it incurs a lot of remaining inventory all the way until the end of the period. Okay, so this is my solution. I know this is going to be very different than what's initially expected from this problem, but I guess we turned this boring problem into something very interesting. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this problem. Okay, so this is basically what the net requirement planning process is. Okay, which is part of material requirement planning.